The federal government's 5% expanded deposit scheme is coming into effect today. Earlier, I spoke to the Housing Minister and began by asking her why the government was boosting demand given the struggles with supply right now.
Well, the government today is slashing the time it will take for young people around the country to get into their first home. We've got a generation of young people facing very different housing opportunities than their parents and grandparents. Well, as of today, every single first home buyer in the country will be eligible to get into the market with just a 5% deposit and our government's backing. Now, I'm in Sydney today where the average family is saving for 11 years or more just to be able to get into their first home. Our policy will bring that back to 2 or 3 years. This is really meaningful support that we can offer for young people, and it's happening today.
The RBA governor yesterday said it's going to be at least 2 years before your supply side reforms start to show up and really make a tangible difference. In that context, is it risky to be boosting demand in the way you're doing?
Well, we know that the main game in housing affordability is supply. Our country needs to build more homes more quickly, and that's why our government has a historic $43 billion agenda focused on just that. We're building more homes, we're getting renters a better deal, and we're getting more Australians into home ownership. But at the end of the day, Kieran, I'm not going to look a generation of young people in the eye and tell them that they're not going to get any support and help from our government until the supply challenges are resolved. They need help from us right now, and that's exactly what they're getting.
The issue is, though, that insurers, the housing industry, economists like Saul Eslake, they all believe that, and they're arguing that this is going to boost prices, so make it more unaffordable in a sense for first home buyers because you're lifting the threshold. There is no threshold when it comes to income or assets.
Well, Kieran, what we know is that young people around the country tell us that the biggest barrier facing them when they're looking at getting into the market is building that deposit. Very different situation, even from when you and I were in our 20s, Kieran, and that is just an injustice that's being put upon those young people. So it is unfathomable from my point of view that we not step in and provide them with that support. That being said, the main game here is supply. We've got to build more homes more quickly. And remember, Kieran, that after 9 years of the federal government doing absolutely nothing about housing, we're the boldest and most ambitious government on housing since the Second World War, tackling this problem from every single angle.
I want to drill into the supply question in a second, but just on the subsidies, why subsidise millionaires? Families that don't need it?
Well, that's not what this policy is going to do, Kieran. For people who are wanting to buy homes that cost millions of dollars, they can do that, but without government support. This is really targeted at opening up home ownership to a generation of people. Now, if you think that it's only young people on low incomes today who are struggling, you're absolutely wrong about that. I'm in Sydney today where, 2 people who are working full-time doing all the right things will still tell us that that deposit hurdle is stopping them from getting into the housing that they need and deserve. We want those young people to be in a position where they're paying off their own mortgage, building their own future, not someone else's, and that's exactly what this policy will do. I mean, really, it is unusual for a government to be able to make such a significant difference for a generation of people in one day, but that's what we're doing today.
So, Minister, earlier I mentioned the Governor's comments yesterday on she doesn't think it's going to show up in terms of supply, tangible boosts in supply for 2 years. Is there anything that you can do to exceed those expectations, to beat those expectations? Is there any hope you get to that 1.2 million new homes by 2029?
Well, that's the aspiration that the Prime Minister has set for the country, not just a goal of our government, but of every state and territory government, of local government and of business. There's an agreement to try to work together here to meet that really bold and ambitious target, and we're doing everything that we can to get there. Now, I've talked about the broadness of the government's agenda here. We have gone from a Commonwealth government doing absolutely nothing about housing to being the boldest and most ambitious Australian government on housing since the post-war period. $43 billion, building more homes, getting renters a better deal and getting more Australians into home ownership. Now, is it enough? Absolutely not. The job is not done here, and that's why every single day I get out of bed as Housing Minister looking at the next problems that we need to solve in what is a 40-year-old problem for our country. More will always need to be done, and we'll be scanning for those opportunities as we go.
And finally, before you go, I spoke to Rose Jackson last week, others in the housing industry, about modular prefabricated homes can be done in 4 or 5 weeks, made with, good products, Australian steel and so on. Is this something you're looking at to expedite the construction process?
Absolutely. Modern methods of construction and innovation in housing is one of the really big focuses of the work that I do with state and territory ministers. And the New South Wales government in particular is doing some really interesting thinking and work on this at the moment. One of the problems that we face in housing construction is that we're building homes in much the same way that we were 30 years ago, when other countries around the world are doing things quite differently. So we clearly have an issue here about how we're getting innovative ideas adopted in the country, and Rose and I are working together really closely on making sure that we get those out, and it's certainly a piece of the puzzle.
Minister for Housing, Clare O'Neil, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kieran.